Good morning, everybody. A big warm welcome to this week's edition of Wednesdays Weekly. We're delighted to be sharing with you this morning the launch of the Oldham Money Advice Referral Tool. I'm equally delighted to be welcoming Tom from Greater Manchester Poverty Action, Mike from Oldham Council Public Health, Priya and Oli, who are the evaluation partners from ICF. They'll be our presenters today. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mike.
Thanks. So I'll just introduce myself. My name's Mike Bridges. I'm a public health specialist in the health team. One of the remits I've got at the moment is around food strategy, and part of that is work around food. So this is kind of the context really where the Oldham Referral Tool has come from, is part of and rich part of, where we've been looking at some of the solutions to long-term food security ground. First of all, just need to be cautious around these figures that I've put up. These figures will be certainly be an underestimation of what's going on in Oldham at the moment. But at that time, people living in food poverty, which was about 10% of just over 10% of the population. Then within Oldham as well, there was a high proportion of children living in, and again, there's stark differences between Oldhurst experiencing the most, with Saddleworth South experiencing the least. But that's not to say that Saddleworth doesn't have within certain populations groups within there. One of the things that we're obviously seeing through the pandemic, and have seen this, is the increase in the number of direct referrals to food banks and mutual aid groups. And again, you know, with the outcome of the taking away the £20 benefits and then cost of living as well on top of this. That's placed increased burden on the community food sector during the people, both the groups and the infrastructure, and then the fragility of the food system as well, in that's becoming as we've seen increased demand. Slide, please. I thought this slide is really about food security. So this is a slide from America. Again, I've seen this in a previous presentation. But what we've been trying to do around the food security group is trying to think about how do you ladder food security so that we can move people into a better position. So really the idea of the tool was to focus on the very low food security and the low food security, and it's about how do we move people out up that ladder. And I just thought this was really useful in just explaining to people, you know, what we're talking about. So really the aims of our group and what we've been trying to do really is trying to reduce the reliance on emergency food aid, but obviously we want to move to kind of long-term solutions. So our ideas around the tool were decent and reliable income. So obviously we're looking at things like the living wage for that, and just everybody gets the benefits and the help that you know they need and require. We're very much taking a support, and also it was about trying to causes of that very low food security, and then some of the work that we're trying to do in the long term, at how do we develop cooperatives, innovation enterprises around food to ensure that people can get access to that affordable and healthy nutritious food. I I think that's it now, Laura, if you go to the next slide. So what I'll do is just hand over to Tom, and I'd just like to thank Tom and GMPA for the work that they've done in supporting our food security group in delivering this work. Really, if it wasn't for Tom and his efforts, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you for that, Tom.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Laura, as well, and yeah, for the invitation to come and present this today. You squeezed us in at very short notice when we said when the tool would be launching, so we really appreciate it. And thank you, Mike, for that introduction, and also for the work that you and your colleagues have done to bring this work together. So I'm going to be talking about the referral tool itself, where it's come from and what we're hoping to do and how to actually use it. Next slide, please. Just briefly, Greater Manchester Poverty Action. We work to prevent and reduce poverty across Greater Manchester. We're around 6 years old. I was a co-founder of GMPA in 2016, and I've actually just entered my last week with the organisation. So this product launch really is something I've been working to for a long time. I'm really, really pleased we're able to see it through in time. Good time. Okay, this is our vision. Our vision is of a Greater Manchester free from poverty, where all residents can realise their potential and access the benefits of living in a diverse and vibrant city region. Next slide, please. These are the aims of GM Poverty Action, and I've highlighted here some that are particularly relevant to this programme. We support our network of stakeholders. Our mailing list, I think, is over 1,500 people and organisations working to address poverty in Greater Manchester through sharing information, through our communications. We carry out research and policy work to advocate for changes to policy and practice at the local and city region level. And we also, our programme's stream of work is about kind of on the ground practical responses to poverty, and also about involving people with lived experience of poverty. And actually, this programme actually has drawn on every single strand of that. But of course, supporting stakeholders with the information they need to address poverty, and you know, putting out the information needed to address poverty on the ground is particularly relevant here. So, looking at the Money Advice Referral Tools programme itself, our policy position really is that responses to poverty should focus on getting more money into people's pockets. What Mike was talking about, everybody having access to a decent, reliable income. A really important pillar of that is a cash-first approach to local welfare, and an advice-first approach to other support services. And the Money Advice Referral Tools support, in particular, advice-first approaches. And that means that where at times there may be a default approach of when somebody presents as being in need, that they are given food if they're hungry, furniture if the house is unfurnished, and whatever else. We're trying to say more and more, actually, let's go upstream from that point and let's start the conversation with what is causing you to experience this hardship, to need these things, and how can we help you to address the underlying causes. So this programme started by talking about food poverty and food insecurity, sorry, I should say, and the number of conversations that we had with food banks and with food clubs, where they're expressing a real frustration, but in a really positive way, that people were coming to them in need of food, but also in need of a wide range of other kinds of support, advice and information to address the underlying causes. But the food banks and food clubs are saying, that's not our job. So how do we go upstream to the point of referral and ensure that people are being referred and signposted to the other kinds of support? Next slide, please. So the tool itself starts by finding out what issue is causing a person's need for support. Again, actually, this says food aid. It could be anything. It can be broader than that. And what we've seen where we've piloted the tool elsewhere is lots of different local authority departments and other public services and also community groups who have nothing to do specifically with food are using this referral tool to help refer people to income maximisation support. So it starts by finding out what are the issues. It then outlines the options for support to address these issues and then gives contact details, eligibility information and so on for agencies who can provide this support. And this, yes, so this is the tool for Oldham, which we just launched this week. Just to say briefly in the programme, the pilot stage has been Thameside and Oldham. We launched it in Thameside mid last year and in Oldham, as I say, this week. I'm really pleased that we now have funding to roll it out to 4 more boroughs in Greater Manchester. So we're actually going to see, hopefully in a year's time, most of Greater Manchester using a tool very much like this. So as you'll see, as I said, it starts by asking there that the column on the left, what's the problem causing a person to be in need? And we'll just talk through how a conversation might go. It might go, I quite suddenly have no money. Why is that? Loss of job or benefits stopped, for example, a benefits sanction. So then you can look at the options there. What are the options? 1, 2, 4. So going through to option 1, you may be able to apply for benefit advance or a hardship payment. Option 2, you may want to challenge a decision such as a benefit sanction. And option 4, actually, perhaps even before taking those steps, a benefit check will help you to ensure that you're receiving everything that you're entitled to. So just looking then at option 4, if somebody wanted to start with that, who can help? CA, WR, so you could go to Citizens Advice for this, or you could go to Welfare Rights for this. And then on the next page, please. Next slide. And then this page has all the very basic information that you would need to be able to get in touch with Citizens Advice or with the Oldham Welfare Rights Service. Please could you go up a slide again? If possible. There you go. And so this referral tool will help you to have those kinds of conversations for all these different kinds of issues about debt or money not stretching far enough on a regular basis, or a wide range of other issues. It puts out loads of options, as many of which individuals may not be aware of, but actually, you know, the kinds of organisations that might refer people into, for example, food banks might not be aware of this whole wide range of organisations. And then even if they are, they might not be aware of all the information about how to access those organisations who can help. So then back to the next slide again, please. You'll see there are 5 organisations here seen as the key referral partners in Oldham for income maximisation support: Citizens Advice, the Support Inclusion Team, Welfare Rights, Warm Homes and Christians Against Poverty. However, on the right hand side, there's a wide range of other kinds of support for work, older people, counselling, including with mental health issues, substance abuse, and the list goes on. Whilst the referral tool doesn't link directly into these, as referrers are having these conversations, a lot of these other kinds of issues may come up because, of course, we're talking about poverty and income maximisation, but we're aware, of course, that poverty links to multiple vulnerabilities. And so then people making these referrals may well want to be aware of all these different kinds of support as well. Please could you go down to the next slide? So how to get involved. For those organisations based in Oldham who want to use this referral tool, we're asking you to fill in a really simple request form. You use this form to say, I want some printed copies, but also the referral tool can be used as a PDF. It's online. In a short time, the council will be putting up an interactive online version as well. Even if you're going to be using it online, we would really like you to register the fact that you're going to be using the tool online, because then we'll have a record of everybody who's using it So it is freely available to use on the web, but we are asking people to fill in a very simple form just to let us know that they're using it. In particular, that's going to be really important for our evaluation. The next thing to do, having registered your intention to use the tool, is to actually use the tool. Again, it's available in printed form or online as a PDF, very soon to be an interactive version online as well, hosted by the council. And we would love to get your feedback. We would love, and we're asking you to tell us about how you're using it, what kinds of referrals are being made through this, the kinds of numbers of referrals. This will do two key things. One, it will tell us about the use of the tool, and it will help us to evaluate the programme. As I've said, in Oldham, this is still the pilot phase of it, so it's very new, and we want to learn as much as we can. But also, as we're looking at the kinds of issues that people are being referred for and who they're being referred to, this is going to be really, really useful information for the whole borough of Oldham for thinking about where might be the gaps, what are the most needed kinds of support, and also, yeah, what are the issues that people are coming up against most often. So that reporting use of the tool is going to be really important, and Oli is going to talk in a second about what we're asking for the support for the evaluation. Sorry, please could you go up to the next slide again, just briefly? Thank you. So but using the tool is of course the key point, and we're really excited for the use of this tool. Really excited to see how it will be used, and hopeful and expectant that ultimately a lot of people are going to be referred to a wide range of different support options that will provide a sustainable way out of poverty by maximising their incomes. So finally, we're asking everyone to stay in touch with all of the MPA's work. Normally I would give my contact details here, but as I said, I'm moving on. So if you sign up to our newsletter, you will hear about all of our work, and you'll be able to stay in touch in that way. So I think I'll take questions at the end. So I'm going to hand over to Oli now to talk us through the evaluation and how we're asking people to support that process.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. Thanks, Tom, and thank you for having us. So sorry, Laura, can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Yeah, so we're ICF Consulting Services Limited. We're an organisation that specialises in research and evaluation services. And so we're working for Greater Manchester Poverty Action to undertake the evaluation of the pilots for all of the money advice referral tools, and obviously focusing on this Oldham one. So the idea of the evaluation is to inform both the continued rollout of the approach and decision making on whether and how best to scale up or transfer the approach elsewhere. And so the idea is to kind of provide some insights and kind of useful learnings on the implementation of the tool, and to kind of quantify any changes in referral patterns and outcomes for service users from the tool. And so our approach is split into two parts really for the Oldham tool. So the first part is a process evaluation, which is really focusing on how the tool is used, how referrals are made, and the sort of the wider implementation of the pilot. So in other words, it's looking at how the tool is working, and trying to identify the key kind of facilitators or barriers to the tool. This will give us a really good sense of the project's scalability and how the tool will be kind of more widely implemented from the pilot. And then the second part of our approach is an impact evaluation. So that's focusing on changes in outcomes. And the outcomes we're particularly looking at is changes in referrals. So both the kind of numbers and the kind of referrals to the organisations listed on the tool. It will also kind of partly focus on what might have happened without the tool. So there's kind of a counterfactual element in there, which will sort of depend on the kind of data that we collect. Perfect, thank you. And so our methodology is split again in two. So with some qualitative research, which is interviews with the support services listed on the referral tool in 2 rounds. The first round will be starting almost imminently, and then a second round at the end of the pilot, and then interviews with a range of people involved. And then our quantitative research sort of depends on the data collection tool that's been rolled out alongside the tool itself. And so this will be used to kind of measure the outcomes and the kind of changes in referrals following from the tool. Fantastic. Okay, and so we collected in two parts. The first part is the organizations using the tool to make the referrals, and that will be a very simple data collection spreadsheet, and that would be fantastic if everyone kind of using the tool could use that to really help with us kind of tracking how the tool's going. And as far as possible, we'd like to collect information on the referral itself, so where it was made, when and why, and then some service user characteristics, which are kind of listed there. And then the second part is working with the organizations listed on the tool. And this will be a slightly more in detail data collection where we're asking those organizations to record referrals using a simple data collection spreadsheet, which will be emailed directly to them. And that will just try and collect a little bit more information to try and track the outcomes of the service users. And that second part of the data collection will be in direct contact with organizations listed on the tool. So sort of watch this space in that regard. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I think we've come to the end of the presentations there. So a big thank you to Oli, to Tom and to Mike. We're heading into a Q&A session now. So if people feel comfortable and you want to put your cameras on, it would be nice to see your faces. And we can start getting into some questions.